Kia ora, and welcome to the University of Otago's webinar for undergraduate psychology. My name's Terry Higgins, and I'm from the International Marketing and Recruitment team here at Otago, and I'm joined by some pretty awesome panelists who I'll introduce in just a moment. Now, please remember that this session will be recorded and sent to all our attendees after the fact. And as well as our expert panel, we do have a group of producers behind the scenes who are answering any questions you're asking during the session today. We did also receive a number of questions in advance of the webinar, so we'll be doing our best to address those throughout the session today. And please feel free to continue asking questions throughout. There's a lot we're covering today, but first I want to introduce our amazing panel. First up, next to me, Dr. Celia Lee, Senior Teaching Fellow here at the University of Otago's Department of Psychology, Dr. Ryan Ward, Senior Lecturer of Psychology, who's going to share some research highlights, Lynley Soper, career extraordinaire from the Career Development Centre here at Otago, and the wonderful Shamina Jagu, who is here speaking from the student's perspective on all things undergraduate psychology. So first things first, what to expect. There's a lot of content here today, but you can see on the screen a lot of what we're going to cover. What is a psychology degree at Otago? What will I study? How will I study? Entry requirements. Shamina, of course, is going to bring the student's perspective into the conversation. Ryan will touch on research, back to Lynley for careers, and then I'll take you through some of kind of the fundamentals around funding, housing, and then we'll head to some Q&A with our wonderful panel. So first, introducing the University of Otago. Fun fact, recent ranking among many, we are the 17th most photogenic university in the world. I'll take that. If you're studying somewhere for 3+ years, you do want it to look beautiful. But more importantly, we are ranked in the top 2% of universities in the world, according to QS, 197th, which is not bad when you think of the thousands and thousands of universities out there. We are #1 in New Zealand for education performance, and 96% of our graduates go either straight into work or further study, which is actually amazing. 8 out of the last 12 years, we've won the Prime Minister's Supreme Award for Teaching Excellence, and I've heard from Celia that a lot of that is actually coming out of psychology, and 5+ stars in terms of international quality according to QS. So I think we're done now. You're coming to Otago. No, just tricking. We're going to hand it over now to Dr. Celia Lee, who's going to talk to us more about an undergraduate psychology degree at Otago.
Oh, before we do this, can we go back for a second?
Yes.
Because I don't want to spoil the surprise that we have coming up. All right, kia ora koutou, ko Celia Lee toku ingoa. I'm Celia. I work in the psychology department. I'm originally from Upper Hutt in Wellington, and I came down here to Otago because my friends were coming here and I wanted to, get that experience of living away from home and stuff. And I actually started, fun fact, doing a degree in maths and chemistry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I tagged along to my friend's class in psychology in the first week, and I was fascinated by the topic, and I've stayed ever since. So that was 20-something years ago. It was a wee while ago. But psychology is a fascinating subject, and I hope that you guys, by the end of today's presentation, will understand how amazing psychology is as a subject. All right, I'm going to get us started. Now you can change the screen over because I have a surprise for you.
Okay. Am I clicking again?
No, not yet. Okay, so I'm going to show you 2 pictures on the screen.
Okay.
And they're going to alternate between.
Right.
You'll be fine. You can do this. Can you see 2 pictures? Not yet. But it will alternate between 2 different pictures. Okay. And it's one of those spot the difference kinds of things. Okay. So there's going to be 2 pictures. What is the difference between the 2 pictures? You guys watching at home, I want you to do the same thing and then tap something in the comments if you want to, if you see the difference. Okay. Before Terry sees the difference. Right, ready?
Okay. Yeah.
Ready?
I've got this.
Yay.
Okay.
That's picture 1. Picture 2.
Okay.
Picture 1. Picture 2.
Why am I not seeing this?
Why are you not seeing this? I've forgotten which one's 1 and which one's 2. We're still alternating between 2 pictures. Has anyone else got this? Oh, Lynley's got a hand up. Lynley. All right. You do. Okay, Lynley, do you want to lean in here and point on my screen over here. What you can see?
I don't know if I can lean this
Can you lean this far?
No.
No?
So the bar behind them shifts in height.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can't unsee it.
Yeah,
It's right in front of me.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an example of a psychological phenomenon known as change blindness or inattentional blindness. And it really highlights the limitations of our attention systems. We can't pay attention to every single thing going on in our environments at the same time. Our brains are not built with that capacity. So it really highlights that that we have to work within that sort of framework. We have to be aware of what we miss. When we're driving down the road, are we missing things going on in the background? You know, so this is a really classic sort of example of how our brains kind of work.
I love that. What a way to kick us off.
I always like starting with examples. Okay, so why study psychology? Apart from the fact that it's an amazing subject. But if you've ever caught yourself asking, you know, why is it that my little sister is being annoying? Or why is it my dog can't learn how to roll over? Or why is it that people are doing weird stuff because all their friends are doing it? Do you guys wonder these things? Yeah. Yeah, especially my dog. She's so weird. She can't roll over. Okay, but psychology gives us a deep understanding of behaviour. And human behaviour in particular, but also areas of psychology look at animal behaviour as well. And being able to understand why people think the way they do, how are people influenced by other people around them. It provides us with valuable insights that we can apply to all facets of our life as well. In terms of developing career prospects in different growing fields as well, there's an increasing awareness that things like mental health and wellbeing and things like the education sector, what else? Corporate sector, Lindley, I'm looking at you, businesses,
technology, community work.
All these sorts of sectors there. You know, it's really important for us to have an understanding of people and their well-being and why they behave the way they do. Transferable skills. Lindy's going to talk more about this, but especially things like critical thinking skills, communication skills, research skills, independent thinking, really important skills that we learn through psychology. Research opportunities and practical experience. My lovely colleague Ryan will be talking to us about some of the research opportunities you have at the University of Otago. And later on, I'm going to talk to you guys a bit more about pathways to registration as well as a psychologist. So all those points there were about why study psychology in general. But I guess this next slide here is talking about why study psychology at Otago specifically. Otago is amazing. We have a large department. In fact, psychology is the most popular subject at the University of Otago as well. We have over 50-ish academic staff, research staff. We've got administrative staff. We've got so many students in all our papers. At one point, I think, probably even this year, most of the time in our first year cohort of students, the students who come down here for at Otago for first year, about a quarter of those students will be studying psychology.
Oh, wow.
So it's a very big department. And we have an excellent reputation for research as well. Our researchers regularly win prestigious awards for their research. They have really high international and national reputations for research, which is important because our researchers are also our teachers as well. So not only are they great at research, they're amazing at teaching. We have award-winning teachers as well. One of those 8 out of 12 of the Prime Minister's Supreme Excellent Teaching Award thing. That comes from the Department of Psychology as well. Yeah. What else do I want to tell you? Impactful societal change. So, have you been on a children's playground lately? Have any of you guys been on a children's playground?
Yes, actually, over time.
What's on the ground in a children's playground?
The
spongy stuff, or like bark and stuff. In the 1970s, it was concrete. And one of the findings from one of our big studies in the psychology department, the Dunedin study, which Ryan will be talking about, found that people were injuring themselves a lot on the concrete in the playgrounds. And so there was a change in the law that playgrounds had to not have concrete under them. So there is often research in our department that goes through and actually has meaningful impact in society in New Zealand. And the last point, flexibility of degree options. This is what I want to talk to you about.
Yes, I'm excited
next.
to learn about this. We get a lot of questions about what to pair psychology with, and I think you're going to talk a bit about that.
Okay. So, psychology. What do I want to tell you about psychology degrees at Otago? You can study psychology as a major subject in a range of degrees at Otago. Our most common degree options are the 3-year Bachelor of Science, or the BSc, or the 3-year Bachelor of Arts, which is the BA option. There are other 4-year options out there if you want to specialise in 2 different subjects. So there's the BAS, the BCom Sci, and the BAcom. Words are on the screen there for you as well. About 80% of our students will choose to do a BA or a BSc. And not only do you have that flexibility, you can also add in another degree there as well. So commonly we will have students who do a psych major and a BA or BSc and add in a law degree as well. I guess the key thing here is that if you have a psychology major in any of these degrees there, you are eligible for a postgraduate study in psychology, including our clinical psychology program. And I will talk to you guys about that later on.
Cool. So what does that 3 years look like?
What does the 3 years look like? Well, Terry, here's a handy infographic.
In case I want to do another degree.
I've got options for you if you want to do another degree. But if you are coming in and you want to do a 3-year degree in psychology, this is sort of the layout of what your 3 years will look like. A 3-year BA or a BSc is made up of 360 points, and there is, and to make that up, people usually complete a certain number of papers across the years. And now a paper,
an independent course for our international students on the line.
That's a good point there, Terry. So a paper is an independent course in a topic, and they're usually around 18 points at the moment. So you'll end up doing about 20 papers across those 3 years there. And because psychology, if you're doing that as a major, you have to do a lot of those papers being psychology papers. So on the screen there, I've outlined what the compulsory papers are for psych in the yellow, and then the other ones are all the other papers that you can take as part of your degree. Do you want to step through what we do in each of the years?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. First year in psychology, there are those 2 papers, Psych 111 and Psych 112. Anyone at Otago can do a psych paper. As long as you've got university entrance, you can do these papers. You can just fill it up in any degree, which is quite cool. We get lots of people who do it just as an interest paper, and then they stay because they love it. So Psych 111 is our brain and behaviour paper. It's in the first semester, which is the first half of the year. And let me flick to my notes there. It covers topics such as memory. So how are memories formed? How are they stored in the brain? Looking at the nitty gritty, sort of at the neural level, how that works. We also move a little bit more broadly speaking to how does the brain work? So neuropsychology, what different parts of the brain do what? And this paper also touches on learning as well. How is it that we can learn to do things? How is it that my dog can still not learn how to roll over properly? So how do our environments shape the way that we behave? And then also biopsychology as well. So how do things like sleep or hormone levels and drugs affect our brain? So that's 111, our first semester paper. 112's got me more of a human focus, so it's called Human Thought and Behaviour. So it looks at things like social psychology. Why is it that everybody's, wearing the same outfits? Why is it that people, do things because their friends are doing it? So how do others affect our own behaviour? Cognition as well. So things like how do we remember things? How do we solve puzzles? How do we play a game of chess? Those sorts of things there. Development, especially focusing on child development. How do our abilities, our behaviours, our understanding of the world change over years? And then also a little bit on abnormal psychology. So what happens when behaviour is a little bit sort of, what's a good word for this, Ryan? I'm just passing it on to my colleague over here.
Abnormal?
Abnormal is a funny term.
Normal is such a,
Non-typical, yeah.
Particularly
already
if
come to work.
problematic,
I love
It
having
causes the individual difficulties, yeah.
Yeah. So when behaviours, become a little bit more difficult in terms of our daily lives, how is it that we can sort of look to help and understand those kinds of behaviours? Yeah. Okay. Strap in, guys. We've got a slide with a lot of information here. So that was just Psych 111 and 112 in your first year. And you can see here that you can actually do a whole lot of other papers. You come to uni, you're like, oh, I've done my Psych papers. What else do I do with my degree?
That is a common question we definitely get from international students as well. Yeah.
And the cool thing is that it's really flexible. Our Psych degrees are really flexible. All our degrees at Otago are flexible, but especially with the psychology major, because you only have those 2 compulsory Psych papers that you have to take. The other 5-ish papers that you can take in your first year are made up of things that you are interested in. So what your interests are. I've just put in a wee caveat that it might be helpful for you to add in stats in there. So either Stat 110 or Stat 115, because that's a paper that you'll need to do if you want to get into postgraduate study in psychology. I always like putting that out there, just so people are aware that that's something. But in terms of all those other papers there, it does depend on where you want to go. So about 30-ish% of our students will be doing psychology paired with neuroscience. So they may take papers in biology, chemistry, anatomy. 25-ish% of our students will want to pair it up with papers within business and marketing and working with organisations. So marketing, management, human resources. There are people who want to, look at, the legal system, justice, that sort of thing there, law, criminology, forensic analytical science. And
spoiler alert, Shamina's going to talk about that.
Shamina is going to talk about that there. And then in the humanities division, there's a whole range of papers that people can take that they can fill in with their first year. I will put in a plug for both our Māori Society paper and our Pacific Societies paper, because they are really good papers that give us that sort of understanding of so that cultural world that we live in, and also are important if you are looking at clinical psychology. And what else do I have on there? If you're interested in well-being, human well-being, sort of sport and exercise science, human nutrition, public health, all those things. So many different papers.
Yes, so many options. It's really great.
Oh, one more question. I think that people have put through on the questionnaire thingy about whether you want to do a BA or a BSc.
Yes, I think that's a common question I get, is like, why would I do a BA versus a BSc? So it would depend on these interests, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's my answer that I will give to students who ask me. Do I want to do it as a BA or a BSc? And this depends on all these other papers that you're filling up these greeny boxes with. If you're doing more the science style papers, go down the BSc road. If you're wanting to do your anthropology, sociology, Māori society, probably go down the BA road. So you can do it that way.
Makes good sense.
Yeah.
What about second and third year? I know a lot of these students on the line are coming into first, but just take us through what we can expect for second and third year.
Yeah, so as you step through the years of study, you end up doing more and more psychology papers. Yeah. Unsurprising, really. This is literally how degrees are structured, so that you learn more and more about the subject that you're majoring in. So in second year, there are 3 compulsory second year papers, so psychological research methods, brain and cognition, social and applied psychology. So sort of starting to get into other areas of psychology within there. Those ones are compulsory. There's also Psych 203, which is our normal Psych paper, which is an optional paper but highly recommended. It's currently optional for students who want to do clinical psychology, but in the future it is likely that's going to be a compulsory paper for our clinical psychology students there. And again, those other green papers, up to you. Go have fun, find some papers. Do you know what I filled those ones up with in my first and second year?
I'm dying to find out.
Okay, so we talked about I had maths in there, I had chemistry in there, I have philosophy in there.
Wow.
Yeah. So
cool. Well, you did well. So you chose well.
I am here. So. And then in your third year, again, more and more Psych papers that you can get, that you pick up as well, depending on what your interests are. And so by this time, by the end of your second year, you'll have an idea about what sorts of papers, what sorts of areas of psychology that you're interested in. And then you get to choose what you want to put into those yellow boxes there. A little bit of a caveat that quantitative methods, the first one on the list there, if you're thinking about doing postgraduate study in psychology, you need to have that psych quantitative methods paper in those 4 boxes.
And Celia,
over there.
presumably there's advisors that students can connect with during first, second year to make sure they're hitting these marks.
Absolutely, yeah. We make sure that that students have
The right package of
exactly. And also you can change. When you go to your first week of lectures, you can go to all the papers that semester and then go, I'm going to take Ryan's drug paper and drop Celia's behaviour analysis paper.
Never.
Oh, it happens more often than you think.
Before we touch on beyond undergraduate study, now are these is everything you've just discussed open to international students as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Assuming they have university interests.
Yes.
Yeah. So whatever those requirements are, of which the international team,
Yes.
I believe, are really good at advising international students.
And I think the team are actually going to drop a link in the chat with an international entry requirement picker, which will be helpful.
Awesome. That'd be super helpful. So yeah, any student, domestic or international, they can do an undergraduate degree with psychology as a major. Yeah.
Great.
I think we had a few questions in the questions that came through. Yeah, about postgraduate options in psychology. So I just wanted to touch on those in this presentation. So if you complete an undergraduate degree with a major in psychology, there's a number of different postgraduate options that you can do at Otago. So you can do an extra year, which would be your honours degree year, and that's a combination of papers as well as a research project, or if you don't want to commit to full-time study in that year, you can do that part-time and it would be a postgraduate diploma in psychology. Or you might want to do 2 years and so you can do a master's degree, or you might be in for the long haul like I was and do a PhD. You might love psychology so much, and so that would be at least 3 years full-time study for your PhD after you've done your honours or your master's. And then there's the postgraduate diploma in clinical psych.
Now, clinical psych is just for New Zealand residents, is that correct?
New Zealand and Australian residents and citizens for our clinical psychology program. I think I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the career section.
Awesome. Perfect.
So entry requirements, as long as you're at uni and you're able to be at uni, you can take psychology, which is awesome. And we also require no background. Like you don't have to have studied psych in high school. I know some high schools these days have psychology. We just assume everyone knows nothing about psychology and we teach them from the ground up. English biostats are helpful at high school, but not necessary. How will I learn? I think we had some questions that came through on the chat about what's it like learning psychology. And it's actually a mixture of different kinds of formats. So all our papers have lectures, and the lectures are like your big classroom style teaching. You might have anywhere between 100 to 400 or 500 students in a class. Our first year paper is so big, we actually run 2 streams and the same lecturer does the same thing twice in one day just to cover that there. So big lecture theatres, lots of people, and our lecturers are really highly rated there. There are some optional smaller group tutorials. I think Shamina's going to tell us about one of those options that are available as well. Plus the halls of residence also have tutorials about lecture content as well. Lab classes are more like your high school classroom. So about 25, 30 students in a class, usually led by a senior student in psychology there, and our first and second year papers, all of them have lab classes as well, and it gives you hands-on research experience within psychology.
So,
and then finally, I think this is my last slide actually for this bit here. If you come to Otago and you're like, I just need a bit of a hand, we have an amazing student support team available. So amazing, in fact, that they won an award a couple of years ago for just how amazing they are. So they're there to provide you with extra support through your psychology studies as well. Just for our Māori and Pacific Island students there, we do have across first and second year a whānau lab program, which means that you can opt in to do a lab that covers the same content as our other lads, but has more of a Pacific or Māori worldview in there, focusing on relationship building, whakawhanaungatanga, all that sort of stuff there. And we also have an undergraduate student society, psyc, that organises events and cool, fun stuff for all our students. I think Shamina's actually going to probably touch on that as well. Is that enough from me?
That was amazing.
That's a lot of information. Sorry, guys.
And that was a really good segue, thinking about the Students Association. I'm assuming Shamina was in it. We're going to pass the mic over to Shamina to tell us a little bit about her experiences.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. Kia ora, everyone. My name's Shamina. I'm a 4th year student currently studying my honours in psychology. So I recently completed my Bachelor of Science and I majored in both forensic science and psychology as well. So the reason why I came to Otago in the first place, I'm born and raised Lower Hutt, Wellington. It's pretty close to Celia.
Yeah, sure. Hang on,
connections. But I came to Otago because I wanted to, move away from home, that sort of thing. But it was the only place that offered a undergraduate major in forensic science. So while I followed my passion for forensics to Otago, I've completely fallen for all things psychology, as you can see.
I've got to stop you there though, because there's a non-psychologist in the building.
Right.
What is forensic psychology? Because my mind goes straight to Criminal Minds, but I feel like it's...
I do love Criminal Minds. However, it's a little bit different to what you see on TV. So forensic psychology sort of focuses on courtroom psychology, so how jurors make decisions, memory of witnesses and how they can testify the most accurately, and how you interview witnesses.
Cool, fascinating.
So the reason why I chose psychology, well, I like Criminal Minds, but I had never done psychology in high school or anything like that. It was a bit of a gamble and I was nervous, but as soon as I sat in that Psych 111 lecture for the first time, I was like, yeah, I like this. And without psychology, I would totally not be the person I am today. It's opened a lot of doors for me. So yeah, I love it a lot. And I like that there are so many areas that you can specialise in once you've taken those foundational courses that Celia mentioned in the 1st and 2nd year. Outside of that, I've learned about how drugs influence the brain and your behaviour, which is Ryan's paper. Sorry, Celia, didn't do
my paper. You troll my
attention in the panel.
Yes, I was the student who and obviously, I quite like forensic psychology since that is my degree. Also, something interesting is pigeon cognition, or animal cognition. So how pigeons can play matching games and solve problems. It's nothing I was expecting to learn, but here I am and it's very interesting. There are options for everyone depending on what your interests are, and if you don't know what your interests are, you can find them out when you come to university. So I think that's nice.
A couple of questions actually came through I'm hoping you can help with. Do you have any advice for students who don't really know what to major in their first year?
I would recommend probably just taking papers that are interesting to you, because a lot of those papers in first year are foundational for anything you want to do later on at university. So it's really useful to have either those base level science papers or base level arts papers,
choice,
or
really.
a mix of arts and science papers.
Cool. So what have you enjoyed the most? Because it sounds like you've been doing a lot in the classroom, part of the society.
Yes.
It sounds like what are you enjoying most about your time in Otago, or even your time in Dunedin?
My time in Dunedin, I've met some really lovely people from all over the world and all over New Zealand, people who I obviously would never have met without coming here and studying psychology. A lot of my friends study psych, which is nice. I met them through that. Also, my psych degree has actually given me the opportunity to teach.
Oh, cool.
So I am a lab demonstrator for the psych first year papers, which has been pretty rewarding because I was once in those classes and now I'm teaching them.
Do I dare ask what the future holds for Shamina?
Potentially some teaching, so I'm not really sure, but Lindley will talk more about career options in psych. But yeah, so far, yeah, I like teaching and
that's
I
awesome.
like learning. So
You might be going down a Celia Ryan path.
maybe I'll end up like Celia.
Wonderful. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Just about the extra tutorial. Past tutorials they're called, and they just run out of the university, and it's free. As part of your.
And you work in PASS?
Yes, I am a facilitator for Psych 111 and 112, and basically it's like a fun way to engage with content. We plan activities and fun ways to learn stuff that is not just sitting down and listening to a lecture.
Great.
Because it's not always the best. But.
Well, thank you so much. I think during these types of sessions, sometimes you just want to hear from a student that's been doing it before you. So we really appreciate you sharing. And I'm sure some other questions and things are going to come your way. But I'm going to hand to the gentleman on your right. The screen's left. Who knows? Somewhere, Dr. Ryan Ward is here to talk to us a little bit more about research in psychology.
Hello, I'm Ryan Ward. I lecture, I teach the second year paper in research methods, and I also teach the drugs paper that's been mentioned a couple of times. Research in psychology, I mean, I could spend a lot of time bragging about the many great sort of researchers we have, but some of you maybe think you're not interested in research, right? Or think I'm just interested in clinical or something like that. But one of the things about psychology is, in order to understand what we know about the brain and about the, like the things that Celia was saying about why people do the things they do, it's all come from research. And so it's really important to understand that process, that research process, and to kind of follow the theory and the experiments that have led to the things that you're going to be taught in psychology. And so that's why, starting from your very first year, we really thread research throughout all of the teaching. So as Cecilia has mentioned, we've got a whole bunch of great researchers. All of them teach and mentor students. All of the students are going to get practical research experience starting in the first year in those classes that Celia mentioned, 111 and 112. We have lab classes where you'll participate in classic experiments and learn kind of the theory and the discoveries that have led to kind of the current state of knowledge. You can participate in actual ongoing experiments that are being conducted by researchers in the department for extra credit. Beginning in second year, you'll start designing research projects as part of your coursework. You'll look at a problem and you'll design an experiment around that. And then beginning in third year, you can actually work with researchers in the department on your own research projects. So, if a researcher has a grant or something that they're working on, and you can kind of step in and get some real practical hands-on experience. And we also have summer studentships available, which is funding to kind of bridge, between years for students who would like to hang out in Dunedin for the summer and to work with a researcher in kind of a more focused capacity on those types of projects. And then, of course, if you go on to postgrad, you'll be assigned a supervisor, or you can choose a supervisor where you'll get some even more in-depth kind of research experience. So from the very beginning, we require you to do research because it's such an important part of understanding psychology and the things that you learn in psychology.
That's amazing to have that exposure at the undergraduate levels, actually really rare, and I think speaks to why the Otago program stands out. I'm keen for you to take us through some of the different research that Otago is doing.
Yeah, happy to. As Celia mentioned, one of our crown jewels in terms of the research that we do, and one of the most famous internationally, is the Dunedin study. It's an award-winning longitudinal study. Basically took a little over 1,000 people who were born between 1972 and 1973 here in Dunedin, and it's followed them since that time. And we take data on their experiences growing up, their health, all kinds of measures of things that they
Their
go through, their
playground
playground
activity.
behavior, all of that stuff. And every few years, we get them back into the lab and we take more measures. And you know, as the technology for looking at things like brain health and all of that kind of stuff has advanced, we've been able to get more and more data about how these people have developed and the way that their experiences have impacted their lives. We're currently in phase 52. This study's resulted in over 1,500 publications. Really groundbreaking results. The playground study, you know, one of the most recent ones that just came out was the researchers found out that you can actually predict onset of Alzheimer's disease by looking at people's retinal health, which is kind of an amazing thing to think about, right? There's been a lot of research done on risk factors for schizophrenia, depression, all of that kind of thing has been sort of pioneered by the Dunedin study, and it's won a bunch of awards as well throughout the years. One of our kind of rising stars is Dr. Olivia Harrison. She is interested in anxiety, all things anxiety research. And just very quickly, she won this year's Prime Minister's Prize for the Emerging Scientist. Her research focuses on how well people are able to recognize their own bodily kind of feedback and how that plays into anxiety symptoms. So if you're starting to feel nervous and you're starting to breathe
Like
heavier,
like
us, right? Yeah. And you're starting to breathe heavier, your heart rate's starting to race a little bit, but you're not very good at picking that up and regulating that, then that's going to kind of spiral into more and more anxiety. And so she's looking at the types of things that play into that in people who suffer from anxiety and how we can help that. Okay, so we also have a huge program in child development. How do kids learn what they learn? What are the best sort of things that we can do to help people learn and develop and grow to be healthy and happy? And we've got a couple of programs here, the Enrich program and the Engage program, that have been picked up by the government, funded by a lot of grants, rolled out across Aotearoa in early childhood education centers. So this is a way that our research really kind of contributes to societal impacts. We've got a whole bunch of other areas that we do research in here. Behavioral and cognitive neuroscience, people measuring brain activity, taking pictures of brains as people engaging in various tasks. Applied psychology and behavioral interventions. How do we leverage what we know about the reasons people do the things they do to affect positive change? Brain and behavior, this is a picture of one of our researchers, Cliff Abraham, who is looking at individual neurons through a microscope. And then social, developmental, and cultural psychology, so many things sort of encapsulated in that general area, and that's not even all of them. So, and like I said before, you as a student will have the opportunity to engage this type of work, not only in your classes, but directly with researchers as well throughout your degree.
That's amazing. And I keep coming back to the fact that you get that exposure at an undergraduate level. I think that's something really special. And I suspect you were just scratching the surface with what we're doing. So thank you, Ryan. I'm sure some questions are going to come your way in the chat. But I want to hand over now to the career extraordinaire, as I referred to earlier, Lindley Soper, who with Celia is going to talk a little bit more about kind of that post-degree career opportunity space.
Sure, thanks Terry. Kia ora koutou. I'm one of the regular registered career practitioners at the Career Development Centre. And a fun fact is that my first degree was marketing, and the bit of marketing that I loved was consumer behaviour. And, you know, I still walk into a supermarket and think about how it's laid out and that whole
That
science
chocolate
behind
at the checkout.
yeah, and what causes us to spend in the way we do. And I think, gosh, I probably should have studied psychology.
You still can.
I still can. I thought my daughter's actually clinical psych, and I thought perhaps that was close enough. You know. So I just want to hand over to Celia for the first couple of slides, just to talk about 2 of our postgrad programs, and then we'll look at some career opportunities.
Okay, so a lot of our students who come to Otago, who are thinking about coming to Otago, are interested in the clinical psychology route, which is, I guess, is an increasing awareness that mental health and well-being is really important for us, both individualistically but also as a society. So we've got our postgraduate diploma in clinical psychology program. This postgraduate diploma is open to anyone who has a psychology major in any of our undergraduate degrees. Okay. Having said that, we do have some eligibility requirements. So it is open to our New Zealand or Australian citizens and permanent residents, and it's also a limited entry, competitive entry course as well. So we only our intakes are fairly small each year for that there. The postgraduate diploma in clinical psychology is 3 years of full-time postgraduate study. So one of the first year is a probationary year, and then there's 2 professional years after that there. But on top of that there, in order to be able to register as a psychologist with the psychology board, you need to have a master's or a PhD research degree that you're completing at the same time. So often it'll take people a little bit longer than 3 years to fit in all that study in that time period there. All right. Okay. So if you're thinking 3 years, that's a long time there. We actually have a new option that is on track for approval starting next year. So lucky 3rd-year students this year who have this as an option. And this is currently just going through the approval processes at the university and also with the New Zealand Psychology Board. I'm tripping over my words here. So tentatively titled the Postgraduate Diploma in Psychological Assessment and Intervention. It will be a 1-year postgraduate program. It will be a mixture of both coursework and practicum. In terms of the entry requirements, it's the same entry requirements that we have for our postgraduate diploma in clinical psychology. And this will hopefully allow our students on track for approval. We will update you guys on this process. You'll be able to see all the paperwork on our website later on once this is done, to be able to perform psychological assessments and interventions in sort of those spaces where these kinds of things are in quite high demand.
Yeah, that's exciting.
It is, isn't it? I'm looking forward to seeing how that program goes. Yeah.
And so what about someone who's not thinking about the clinical space?
Not clinical. So I think, it's important to realise that psychology isn't just about becoming a psychologist. And I think everything that you guys have already talked about has hopefully got you thinking about the breadth of what's involved in psychology. It gives you skills and insights that you can take into almost any field, whether you're looking at business or health or education or technology or community work. It gives you that really strong understanding of people and behaviour, and that's highly valued by employers and organisations across the country. So you might want to not be a registered psychologist, but still have a registered profession. So here at Otago, you can, psychology is that really strong background. If you want to look at teaching or social work or nursing, for example, 1 to 2 year master's programs. And they all have quite a strong amount of placement time within them, and that combined with your degree puts you on track for registration in one of these professions. And particularly with social work and nursing, we see graduates go on and look at social work in the mental health space or it might be nursing science towards psychiatric nursing, or addictions, or eating disorders, or, a lot of specialist kind of areas that still kind of take you more into the behaviour and psych space. So lots of options in there. And then, of course, you are able to progress, if you choose to at that point, to applying for some of the professional health science programs. So lots of options for a registered profession if you want one, and if you're up for some more study. So if you're not up for more study and it's not a professional registration that you're looking for, and a lot of students really like the breadth of a degree like the BA or the BSci. We've talked a lot about what can go in it, and how you can flavour it overall, but it also gives them, often students will say, this gives me lots of options. I don't want to be just looking at one thing. So when you're thinking about where you want to go, you have to think about, first of all, what you actually bring with you from your degree. And obviously, as we said, the big thing is understanding people. So whether you're interested in research or health or business or social change, you have that really deep understanding of how people develop through their lives, of how individuals interact within their social environment, and how they're influenced by it, and how they're influenced by other people, how they develop relationships, how they learn, how they solve problems, how they use language, all of those things you have a really in-depth understanding. And then it's the skills that you build with that. So your research skills, which you can take into any field, your critical thinking, your problem solving, the ability to pull all of that together and apply it to a real world issue. Your communication skills, you understand communications, but you also get really good experience at improving your own skills through a degree. So you'll learn to present, you'll learn to write reports, you'll learn to work collaboratively and effectively in teams. Probably one of the things employers most value in this world, actually. You'll have strong cultural competency, you understand ethics and ethical behaviour in a work environment. So you've got all this to offer from your undergrad degree, which is amazing.
So how does this translate to roles?
Very good question.
Funny I should ask as I
we're all prepared for. So how does it relate to roles? This is a nice bright graphic which gives you an indication of where our undergraduate.
This is Otago grads, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Taken from the last 10 years, and just getting a sense of the direction that they have taken their degree into, and going back and thinking about what Celia was talking about before, that the nice slide with the different combinations that you could put around your psychology. And I think when you look at this, hopefully you can see how that can make sense of how you take that out into the world. So if you have enjoyed in your psych degree, really enjoyed things like social interaction, behaviour change, theories of motivation, you might be really drawn to taking that around helping and encouraging, supporting people in some way. So thinking about things like youth work, mental health support, health coaching, the criminal justice sector, those kinds of spaces. You might instead be more drawn to your understanding around personality and how people are influenced and identify with groups, and how attitudes are formed and changed. So this was me talking about consumer behavior science at the beginning. And so, looking at roles where you're actually influencing people, marketing, health promotion, managing people in culture and organization, etc. Or you might be more focused on, research methods, data analysis, and looking at those kinds of roles, or working more with groups and communities where you have that kind of understanding. So it's really very much about what interests you, what you're good at, what you enjoy doing, the sector you would like to work in, the difference that you would like to make in the world. And that's where we come in.
And I was going to say, so I felt advised in that moment.
Oh,
so
good.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you would support psychology students or sort of soon to graduate?
Sure.
Yeah.
And
Shamina, I hope you're listening.
I know Shamina well. We've been together with Psych a lot. Yeah, I think we have a really good working relationship between careers and the department and the student society. So when you come to study psych at Otago, you have full access from your first day to work with myself or one of the other registered career practitioners on the campus. One of our team is also a specialist international career advisor. And so you can work with us as often as you need to, because often you're making different choices and decisions as you go through your degree and formulating your pathway. We run a full program of events through the year, and the beauty of those is that you get to meet with people who've gone ahead of you, and they talk about their career paths with or without postgrad qualifications. So we try and put lots of those kinds of opportunities in front of students, obviously helping you find graduate roles and some programs that are around building experience, etc., as you go through.
Sounds like a very well-oiled machine. I feel like out of place in this highly skilled panel. But without further ado, I'm going to take you through probably what you might consider the boring stuff at this point. How do I apply? So applications are now open for both all of the degrees, really, undergrad options that Celia mentioned. So head over to the Otago webpage, to the psychology department's page, and simply hit apply now. It should be simple. You'll be selecting either your BSc or your BA, which, correct me if I'm wrong, could be changed later.
Very easy to change.
And thanks, Lindley. You're going to create an eVision account and submit. But don't worry, domestic students, there's liaison team to help you. International students, your regional market managers are there to step you through how it works. Now, very quickly, thinking about funding your course. For New Zealand students, applications are now closed for 2026, but for those of you thinking ahead to 27, the dates will be similar. There's a lot of different scholarships on offer, ranging from 2,000 up to 40,000 New Zealand dollars. And you don't have to apply for a specific scholarship. Simply apply and we'll pair that scholarship up with you and your study goals. Now, if you're an international student or education consultant on the line, here are the three sort of main scholarships that that international students would be eligible for. Our global scholarships there, our Vice Chancellor scholarships for international students, and our academic excellence scholarships. And again, plenty of folks, the team in the background might drop some contact details into the chat so you can connect directly with international reps if you need to. There are some sort of country-specific funding opportunities and scholarships available as well. And for anyone from North America, Otago does let you bring your US financial aid. Okay, so you've applied, you've found your funding source. Where are you going to live when you make the trip from Upper or Lower Hutt down to Dunedin? So the common pathway for a new undergraduate student starting a degree at Otago is living in one of our iconic residential colleges. Now, there are 14 of these, different sizes and different distances from campus, but all offering a very, very high quality experience. And as I think it was Celia mentioned earlier, even have tutorials embedded within their programming. These are fully catered, great value for money. They're private rooms. Now, international students on the line know what I'm talking about. No such thing as a roommate here. You've got around-the-clock support. You've got the ability to identify if you're looking for female-only environments or alcohol-free zones. And just really a wonderful, wonderful experience. Applications are still open just for New Zealand-based students looking for a residential college, and a little bit more time there for those of you looking internationally. So there's websites there for you to take a look at, because the point of this really was psychology, but please do go and check these out if you're keen to know about your accommodation options. And finally, I think this is super exciting, whether you're coming to Otago as a domestic student or an international student, within the psychology degree, you've got the opportunity to go on exchange and look at all the wonderful potential destinations you could travel to. So if this is piquing a bit of an interest, be sure to start chatting, having conversations with advisors, career centre and academics early on, so you can think about how to fit that into your degree. And with that, I am going to pull back magically to the panel because we have received just a few other questions throughout the course of this today. Celia, Ryan, I've got a couple coming your way. Are you ready?
Sure.
Do we need a buzzer?
No, this is
like-
right. I've got two
Go first.
pictures. No. Okay, so one question we've received. Now, in psychology, are you learning direct skills about being a psychologist or more about the biology of the human brain?
Well, Terry, I guess it's even more broader than just about the biology of the human brain as well. That's covered in first year. Yeah, we do cover that in first year. But there's so much more about psychology by definition is the scientific study of brain and behavior. And if you think about that, that covers so many different areas within that. So yes, you can learn to be a clinical psychologist if you go down that path, but you learn so much more about what it's like to be human, what it's like to, to Ryan, come on.
I think really good points. I mean, because psychology is such a huge discipline. It's about understanding why people do the things they do, and so that we take that from the level of individual neurons in your brain all the way up to groups, maybe political affiliations. So we do kind of thread in, you will learn about how to be a psychologist as well. There are certain emphasis in courses regarding that, but it's more about understanding kind of the wide array of factors that make people do the things they do. And I mean, I think when we consider all of the things that are going on in the world, having that understanding is just hugely applicable to anything you're interested in. Our
highest enrollment numbers, do you remember, Ryan, were straight after 2020. 2021 was our biggest number of psychology students ever because people were just going, what just happened? What's happened? What's going on? We need to learn more about humans and why humans are doing things. And we just had a huge number of students there. And certainly if you can look at the year 3 slide there with all the different papers that you could do at third year to start specialising in different areas of psychology. It's not just learning about the biology of the brain. You learn about so many different things. There's cultural psychology and there's social psychology, developmental psychology, drugs and behaviour, Ryan. I teach applied behaviour analysis. So how can we change our environments to change people's behaviour, moving our confectionery around the supermarket, those kinds of things. So there's so much. Psychology is such a broad topic.
And I think this webinar really emphasised that for me. I know we are coming to the top of time, folks. So one more question, Ryan, I'm looking at you because I've heard Celia answer it, but we get asked this time and time again. Difference between a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology and a Bachelor of Science?
Whatever you're interested in. I mean, that's the difference, right?
The psychology papers are the same.
The psych papers are the same, and then whatever else you're interested in studying it just depends on that. So if you're more interested in kind of like neuroscience or biology, then that's kind of more the BSc route. And if you're interested in anthropology, sociology, other types of cultural studies, then that's kind of more the arts route. So it doesn't change at all
so many options.
The psychology papers that you'll be taking. It's just where your other interests
and you'll be mixed
sit.
with those others. Wonderful. Well, I think unfortunately we are at the top of time, but as I alluded to earlier, we do have some wonderful folks out in New Zealand and across the world who can help with those really specific questions, whatever they may be, and can certainly connect you up with folks in the psychology department if they don't know the answer. So some really critical links and contact details there, and some QR codes for kind of that wider information about the university as well, and scholarships, like I mentioned earlier. But really with that, I think I speak for the 5 of us when I say just do it. That's actually the Nike slogan, but psychology.
Psychology.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Consumer psychology.
Come
We
check us
can't
out.
wait to meet you. We can't wait to receive your application, and we hope to see you here in Dunedin for semester 1.
Yeah.
Ka kite.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.